Today, we're going to be building an AI assistant inside of Claude Code in under 10 minutes. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to go over a few different things. So, how we usually use LLMs, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and then the difference between how we use that and actually an AI assistant. So, you can see here on the left of this image that when we use those LLMs, it's like a single shot chat. So, for example, every new chat you start, it's a new process. The LLM forgets your project details, your target audience, your specific goals, and you have to provide it with a whole bunch of context again and again to make sure that it actually keeps up to date with what you're doing from chat to chat. Now, an AI assistant like the one we're going to be building today knows you. It knows your name, your company, your role, your team goals, your tone, your style, your project history, and it does things for you. Deep research, team sync, workflow plan, content ideas, you name it, we can set an AI assistant up to do essentially anything. The two main things that we're going to be focusing on today are email management and then calendar management, as well as a few different scheduled automations that we'll set up later in the video. So it's pretty clear. AI assistant benefits here. We save hours. We never have to repeat ourselves. We can scale our team, and we can also sell the skill of setting up these agents. Once you know how to do this, people will pay a lot of money for you to set them up. An AI assistant that knows all about them and does tasks for them, essentially. Now, building this AI assistant is a 4-step process, so we're going to give it a home. In this case, we're going to be using the Claude Code desktop app. Now, I usually work inside of VS Code, like you've probably seen on this channel before, but to make it easy for you guys to get started with this, we're just going to be using the Claude Code desktop app. Now, after that, we're going to be giving it life. So we're going to be giving it some context, some rules, some information about us that it can then build a memory file on. So it always remembers what we're working on, what tasks we need to do, how we like to write emails, etc., etc. Then we're going to give it some hands. So its first skill, for example, this could be content creation or anything along those lines. Then we're going to let it grow. So over time, your agent will save recent tasks that you've been doing and add that to the memory file, so that will always be up to date. So like I mentioned, we're going to be using the Claude Code desktop app to keep this simple. Before we jump into it, I'm just going to explain the prompt that we will be using for this. Now, you can download the prompt completely for free in my free school community. It will be the first link in the description of this video. The prompt we have on screen is the prompt that we're going to be giving Claude to set up our AI assistant. Now, you can see this is a personal executive assistant setup for automators, which is my free school community. Now, there are 3 phases in this prompt that Claude will go through to set up your assistant. So phase 1 being creating the folder structure. So when we give this prompt to Claude, it's going to go ahead and create these folders for us. So Claude MD file, which is the main brain file, essentially where all of the key information about you, your business, that all lives there. So whenever you open up Claude in this file, in this project file, it will read that memory file essentially and know everything about you automatically, so you don't have to keep repeating yourself over and over again. We're then going to set up a few more files here. So communication style, organization, skills, me file, work file, priorities, and voice. And as we go through the different phases, Claude will write these files for us. Now, phase 2 being probably one of the most important parts of this AI assistant, it's going to interview us. So it's going to go through a few different sections. So what's your name, what's your role, what's your title, what's your time zone? In one sentence, what do you do? What's your biggest priority, etc., etc. Section 2, your work. So what your business or company is called. What do you offer? Section 3 being priorities and your focus. So what are the 3 to 5 things that you're most focused on right now? Section 4, you're going to give it some examples of emails, blogs, content that you've written, so then it will match that style when producing future content for you. Section 5, so how do you like information to be presented back to you? Bullet points, short paragraphs, detailed breakdowns. What tone do you want from me day to day? Casual, direct, and any other preferences. Section 6, we're going to be setting up the email connection within Claude. And then section 7, the calendar setup. Section 8 is going to be scheduled automation. So that is the main reason for building this inside of the Claude Code desktop app, because we can easily create scheduled automations. Section 9, what do you need help with the most? And then we'll move on to the final phase, being phase 3. And that is where Claude is going to take all of that information from phase 2 and update the files that were created in phase 1. Now, don't worry, Claude will literally ask you all of this step by step. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So if you haven't got the Claude desktop app, all you need to do is come to claude.ai/download and then just download it for either Mac, Windows, whatever operating system you are on. When you're inside of the Claude desktop app, it will look something like this. You will need a paid Claude plan to be able to use Claude Code and get this set up. So make sure you're on one of those. Now, when you're inside of the Claude desktop app, make sure that you're on code up here instead of chat or cowork. And then what you want to do is create a folder on your desktop or in your documents, wherever you want your agent to live. It doesn't really matter. And then you want to basically make sure you're working within that folder. So you can see here, the folder that I'm inside of now is Assistant Demo. We can click on this section here, click choose a different folder, and we can just search for a folder where we want our agent to live. But it doesn't really matter where it is. Mine's on my desktop for this example. All we're going to do is hit open, and down here you can see that we're working inside of Assistant Demo. Then we're just going to copy and paste that prompt that I showed you a second ago into Claude and get things underway. So all I've done is I've just dragged and dropped the text file being the prompt into Claude, and I'm just going to say set this up, and we're just going to hit enter. So Claude's going to basically say, let me read the setup prompt. You'll be prompted to allow Claude to actually do a few things if this is your first time within this project, which I'm assuming it is, but no worries. All you need to do is just hit allow for everything that pops up. So Claude's just going to go ahead and build out that folder structure that we talked about a second ago. So phase 1 there, you can see that phase 1 is practically done. The folder structure exists, but several files are missing. That's fine. It's going to go ahead and set that up for me right now. Cool. So phase 1 is done. Now let's get into phase 2, which is the interview process. Now, I'm going to go ahead and fill all this information in for myself really quickly, but I would recommend that you take as much time as possible, making sure everything is right here. Go into as much detail as possible when asked all the questions through the 9 different sections. Now, the more information you give it, the better your assistant will be, essentially. Now, if you don't know what to say, or you can't answer a question that it gives you, then don't worry, just say you can't answer this right now, or you need some help answering this question, and it will help you with that. But I'm going to go ahead and get this done. I'll pause on a few different key sections just to talk you through it, and then we'll jump into phase 3 and actually setting up some of the automations and scheduled tasks. So I'm going through the setup process, and I just wanted to pause on section 4, which is your writing voice. And I just want to show you an example of a response that I'm giving to Claude so you can get an idea of what a good response kind of looks like. So you can see it said, I need to learn how you write so I can produce content that sounds like you and not generic AI. So what I've done is I've just given it 3 examples of some content, one being a message to a client, a LinkedIn post, and then cold email outreach. I've then said my tone, so direct, plain, confident, no filler, and then given it some rules to always follow, so short sentences, no EM dashes, no corporate words, outcome focused always. And then I've said words and phrases that I hate, giving it some examples. So just try and go into as much detail as possible here. Now you can add all of this in later, but it's just easier to get as much information to Claude within this setup process. So then you don't have to go back later and actually add in more. So in section 8, I've actually included a couple scheduled tasks that will be running automatically for you. One being the morning email digest. So that's a summary of unread emails, flagging anything urgent. And then also the morning calendar briefing, which is a rundown of your day, meetings, prep needed, and a look at tomorrow. Now, these will run in the background when you open Claude Code. So you'll see them in a scheduled section of the sidebar, which is just up here. We'll set this up later, but you don't need to set these up if you don't want to. I just thought it'd be nice for you guys to have a couple automations in the prompt ready to go. But you can add in different scheduled tasks and automations as you go, or here as well. So it said, would you like me to add both of these or just one? And then anything else you'd want running automatically. So you can add in as many different tasks as you want. But again, you don't need to set all of this up now. You can set these up later once we've got the initial setup phase done. So I've just finished up the interview process, and then Claude's now going to jump into phase 3 and actually fill in those folders that it created in phase 1 and update all these files so you can see here. So this gives us a solid skills backlog. Let me build everything else now. So it's updating all of these files that we created in phase 1. Okay, so just like that, in about 30 seconds time, everything is built, and here is the full picture. So everything that was built in phase 1 has now been filled in, like you can see here. And then it's going to tell us how to set up Gmail and Google Calendar, which were the 2 calendar and email providers that I chose. Again, like if you choose Outlook or go high level here, it's going to give you different steps to follow to go ahead and get these set up for you. So don't worry, I'm using Google in this example, and I'll show you how to set that up in a second. It's then going to give us prompts for the morning email digest and the morning calendar briefing, and I'll also show you how to set those up. But basically it just said your scheduled automations are ready to activate. For each one below, open a new session in Claude, copy the prompt, paste it into the chat and hit enter, and then Claude will help you set up those scheduled automations, but we'll do this in a second. It's then logged some skills for the future that will help us build out. So LinkedIn and Twitter content, Upwork proposals, client email drafting, weekly client updates. And then it's also giving us some tips to keep our assistant sharp. So daily, nothing required. Morning briefings will run automatically once they're set up. Weekly, nothing required. When your focus changes, update the context.md file. That's easily doable. All you need to do is speak to Claude and say, I want to update the context priorities file with this new information. When you want Claude to remember something, just ask it, remember that I always prefer this, and then it will save it. To add a new capability, tell me what you keep asking me to do, and we will build a skill for it. So for example, if you keep finding that you're wanting to generate LinkedIn or Twitter content, Claude will actually go ahead and help you build out a skill to do that. Now, the folder structure, the assistant and in the prompt follows a strict organization rule, being the rule and the folder structure that were in the prompt initially, which I showed you earlier. But don't worry, if you don't understand or you're unsure where something is, just ask and it will tell you. Now, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and set up the Gmail and Google Calendar connection within Claude Code. Now, this is really easy to do. All we need to do is just click on, move myself out the way, click on this, click on settings, come to connectors, and then here we can see Gmail and Google Calendar. All we need to do is just click on connect. This is going to pop up here, and all you need to do is just authorize Claude to access your Gmail. So I've just gone ahead and connected my Gmail. Like you can see here, it's come up with configure. So let's click on this. And then we can just see some of the permissions that Claude has, and we can basically just say that certain tasks need approval if we want, or we can block certain tasks. But I'm just going to leave everything on allow here, and I'm going to change create Gmail draft to always allow as well. Then we're going to run through exactly the same process with Google Calendar. So click on connect, sign into your calendar, approve the permissions, configure what you want to allow Claude to do and what you don't want it to do. But really easy to set up. Again, just click connect. Once you've connected, just click on configure, and then again, just allow what you want Claude to do without approval, or if a task needs approval, then you can just change it to here, or you can block tasks. So it's really simple to set this up. Now we've got Gmail and Google Calendar set up, we're going to move on to the scheduled automations. Now we've already got all of this information here. So we're just going to copy and paste that. There are a couple ways that you can do this. You can just type in here, schedule, and then copy and paste that prompt in. Or you can click on this scheduled tab in the left-hand sidebar, which we're going to do. We're going to create a new task. We're going to click on new local tasks. So this basically means these scheduled tasks will run when our computer is on and Claude is open. And then we're just going to fill in name, description, the prompt. We're going to select the folder. So we're working inside of Assistant Demo. And then we're going to set the frequency as well. So we've copy and pasted all of the information in from our chat. And then frequency being 9 a.m. daily, and you can see here local tasks only run while your computer is awake. We're just going to hit create task, and then it's as simple as that. We have our automation up and running, so whenever our computer is awake and we have Claude running in the background or open, this will run every day at 9 a.m. So I've just come back to Claude in a new chat window, but I've made sure that I'm inside of the folder that we've been working inside of. Now I've just said, is my Google Calendar and my Gmail set up? And you can see, yes, both are connected and working. You can see that I've got 503 messages, 386 threads, and then Google Calendar is there set to Europe, London time zone with UK holidays calendar as well. So that's connected and working. What we can also do as well to test out the new scheduled automation that we set up, come back to the schedule tab, click on morning email digest, and just click on run now. Now that is going to open up another window here under scheduled, like you can see, and it's going to go ahead and run our automation. So our task is run, only 2 emails in the last 24 hours, nothing urgent, nothing that needs to be replied to. It's come up with my calendar and what I have on tomorrow. So I've got one meeting tomorrow, and then newsletter, nothing actionable tomorrow. Tomorrow's heads up, you've got a coffee chat with Mary at 1 p.m. Worth prepping any talking points, etc., etc. But that is an example of how fast you can get a personal assistant set up within Claude Code. Now you can build this within VS Code or Cursor or Anti-Gravity or any other IDE, but like you saw, it's really easy to get set up inside of the Claude desktop app, set up those scheduled automations. But yeah, that is all from me. Again, this is the backbone of something that can be made into a massive personal assistant. You can build out loads of custom skills in here and get it to generate content, publish to your socials, tons and tons of stuff, reach out to team members. But what I've given you here and the prompt that you can get from my free school community is just the backbone of a AI assistant that remembers you, remembers your business, focuses on your goals, comes up with this email digest, helps you connect your email and calendar and all those things. But thank you very much for watching this video. Hope it helped you get a personal assistant set up. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or leave a comment or join my community and ask in there. But again, thank you for watching this video. Hit the subscribe button and I'll see you all shortly.